When you buy a Parkhurst Richmond these days, or certainly in the future drops, it will be this version, Stitchdown, 618 last, and with a real cap toe. Is this better than the older 602M Goodyear welted version? How are you going? Welcome back to Bootlosophy, and if it is welcome for the first time, my name is Tech, and this is my channel about heritage boots. If you like what you see, by the way, can I ask you to consider clicking on the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'm filming in Perth in Western Australia, Wajak Noongar country, Kalyako Wajak Noongar Buja. Today, I'm looking at the Parkhurst Richmond model in their latest version of the boot, and made up from Charles F. Stead's saddle-coloured Waxy Commander. I've actually had this since August of last year, but would you believe it? I forgot to review it. I honestly have so many Parkhurst boots that nowadays I usually only do an unboxing or a review, but in this case, because it came as a two-boot purchase, I completely forgot to do either. Anyway, better late than never, because when I bought this, Parkhurst was still producing mainly the Richmond model in a Goodyear welted construction on the 602M last and with a sewn-on toe cap, sewn onto the half vamp and not actually two pieces of leather at the toe. So this at the time was very much a sample boot, trying out the model as a stitch-down construction boot on the latest 618 last and including a true toe cap where there is a second piece of leather that's sewn on top of the full vamp piece. If you're new to boots, that would have sounded like a lot of gobbledygook. Lasts, stitch down, Goodyear welt, real toe cap, Charles F. Stead. Don't worry, I am going to break it all down for you. And if you want to look at some Parkhurst models yourself, I will leave a link to their website below. Be aware that as a small batch manufacturer, Parkhurst's webpage may look a little sparse from time to time, but they release new drops at least once a quarter. And so if you don't want to miss their announcements, sign up to their newsletter. Let's start with the design of this boot. The Richmond boot is a modern interpretation of 20th century service boots. That's boots worn by men and women in the First and Second World Wars. It is a continuing design choice that saw a rebirth in the 2000s and since then has continued to catch an ongoing following. It is a 6-inch high boot, meaning that it measures about 6 inches from the top of the heel to the top of the shaft. It's built on a flat sole with lugs for grip on the outsole in this case, and a low block heel for stability on all kinds of terrain, including urban concrete. The pattern itself is simple, with a vamp piece that's covered by a toe cap at the toe, 2 quarter pieces, and the single piece backstay that forms the heel counter cover, as well as the back protection. Like many service boots, it has a combination of eyelets and speed hooks. In this model, it's made from a shrunken waxed suede leather called Waxy Commander, tanned by the famous English tannery specializing in suedes called Charles F. Stead. In this very scruffy Waxy Commander, it is clearly a casual boot. It is made durable enough, I think, to be worn for walking on short hikes or potentially as a light work boot. But in most cases, buyers will probably wear it as a casual boot to wear with jeans, chinos, and canvas pants, and with button-downs and leather jackets or fleece shirts and puffer jackets or trucker jackets. If you're not new to boots, or to my channel, you will know of Parkhurst. I've left a link to their website below, which note is an affiliate link. Now, what that means is if you buy using that link, you don't pay any extra, but I do get a 6% kickback to help with channel costs like editing and new equipment to keep it fresh. If you're a long-time subscriber, you probably know how many Parkhurst boots I have personally bought because I really love this brand. I find the products are well made and they're durable, and I love this modern service boot style, like a Viberg perhaps, but at less than half the price. I am not going to go through the whole history of the brand, but for new viewers, Here's what I have said from a previous review. Now, Parkhurst was founded by Andrew, financial analyst turned bootmaker, in 2018. He is based in upstate New York and started by partnering with a factory in Batavia, New York. From 2018 to 2020, Parkhurst was establishing itself as a small, direct-to-consumer, small batch manufacturer. That meant that Andrew only bought enough materials that he could afford to make a small batch of drops from time to time. And often, after the leathers were used up, that particular makeup would no longer be available. Then in 2020, COVID struck and shut down the world. Andrew found that his suppliers slowly went out of business, one by one, and even the New York factory eventually shut down for good. It was his personality, I think, that saved him, because he built up contacts that liked him, and they introduced him to a factory in Spain. With the connection to that factory in Spain, Andrew found a close network of suppliers for the materials he needed surrounding the factory just nearby. And from there, he was also introduced to a factory in Portugal that specializes in stitch-down construction. I have also interviewed Andrew, the founder, and I think you would like his philosophy and the story of his struggle as one that you could embrace. So let's get into the construction of these boots. Right at the very bottom is a proprietary rubber commando lugged sole. It's made in a Spanish factory, especially for Parkhurst, to fit their slightly hard-to-sole combination lasts. Due to the slight banana curve of the last, which has a narrow heel and waist and opening out to a wide ball of the foot, a standard shape outsole will have the lugs looking slightly askew if it's fitted onto the 618 last, and in fact to the older 602M and 602 lasts. The heel is made up of 2 stacks of real leather, topped by the commando lugged heel top lift, and the whole stacked heel assembly is glued and nailed on the rubber outsole layer, and then a 2-layer leather midsole. The uppers are connected to the sole construction using the stitch-down method of boot construction. In this method, the uppers are lasted or pulled around the last, and then while the back half is turned inwards and glued, nailed, and stitched on the inside to the midsole, the front half is flared outwards and then directly stitched to the top of the midsole. Now you'll see 2 stitches there. The first one goes all the way through to show underneath on the outsole, and the second one is, which is actually stitched first, is stitched through the uppers to the midsole only. Inside the boot is a leather insole, and oddly for a stitch-down boot, Andrew says that there is a cork layer between the insole and the midsole to give some give and eventually mold to the shape of your feet with continued use. The last around which the uppers are pulled over to form the shape of the boot, that's a 3D shape of a foot. It's a mold. Its design is what makes it look like the finished boot, and in this case, the 618 last, so-called, is actually a combination last. Where traditional lasts are carved to fit a particular size and width of foot from heel to toe, in a combination last, the size of last is carved so that the heels are in a narrow width while the ball is in a wider width. This allows a better fit so that the back of the boot grips your feet while the middle of the boot is spacious and thus doesn't squeeze the knuckles there. The uppers are made from Charles F. Stead's Waxy Commander leather. In this case, it's in a colorway called Saddle. I don't know, some of these names. Waxy Commander is tanned as a shrunken suede, meaning it's a suede that's shrunken at the tannery by up to 1/3, which makes all the fibers more squashed in and therefore more durable. And then a thin coat of soft wax is applied to the surface. Now, this coat of soft wax is darker than the underlying suede fibers and is meant to wear off very quickly, showing the lighter color of the fibers within literally a few wears. Let me take a moment to show you the difference between Waxy Commander and Horween's waxed flesh. This is the Waxy Commander, obviously, and it's actually quite soft because it is a shrunken suede, so it's not a super thick full grain leather like the Horween waxed flesh is. On the inside, you find it's also quite a suede leather because it is a suede. It's a shrunken suede to make it durable. And then they put a thin layer of soft wax on it so that as it scrapes by, you see this original wax here, darker, and then you see these scrapes, and eventually, like here, you see the actual nap of the suede show through, like here and here. And eventually it will become actually quite suedey, see, like the tongue. Now that was waxed, and you can see parts of the wax still around, but it's become quite suedey. And that's because it's a soft covering of soft wax. Horween's wax flesh, on the other hand, is a reverse leather. There's the full grain, and on the other side is the rough out, that they put a seriously hard layer of wax over, possibly even several layers. And what you get is this almost full grain looking, almost shiny leather that covers it initially. And then I happen to have worn this boot quite hard. I would normally not see this for at least a year or two of reasonably hard wear. And this boot's well over a year old. And it's showing parts where I scraped through when I went for walks on rocks and things. But a very different type of wax on this. It's a hard layer of wax versus a soft covering of almost wax polish that it's intended to rub off. There you go. A couple of things to note in the construction. Inside the boot, the toe shape is held up by a stiffener, and the heel shape is protected by what's called a heel counter inserted in here in the cup of the heel. In many cases, brands use a thermoplastic, but Parkhurst uses real leather for both of these components. Now, to be honest, you may not notice the difference, but because I've handled so many pairs of boots, I can squeeze it these days and begin to tell the difference. Also, in most cases, you're not going to notice, but over time, the thermoplastic might fracture while the leather can stand up better over time. Another thing is this toe cap. Some brands may make this vamp piece cut to stop here and then sew on the toe cap piece. In this case, this is called a real toe cap, meaning it's sewn on top of a full vamp piece. So there are in fact 3 layers of leather here. You get the vamp, the toe cap, the toe puff, which is leather, and in fact there's actually a 4th. There's a lining inside too, because the boot is lined in the vamp, but it's unlined in the shaft. All in all, a very traditional use of materials and construction. How do you care for Waxy Commander leather from Charles F. Stead? Well, it's actually a bit controversial. The generally accepted approach is actually to do less than you expect. Waxy Commander is a wax-impregnated suede. It's designed to look rugged. It's designed to develop patina quickly and resist water naturally. The leather already contains a heavy wax treatment from the tannery, so aggressive conditioning at home or frequent polishing usually works against the character of the leather rather than helping it. The standard care routine recommended is to brush regularly, keep it clean, let it age naturally, and re-wax only occasionally when it starts looking dry or loses water resistance. You would use a fairly firm horsehair or a suede brush after wear to remove the dust and redistribute the surface wax. Let any mud dry fully before brushing it off. Avoid heavy cream polishes and oily conditioners unless the leather is genuinely dry. And even then, reapply a light beeswax or Dubbin style product only ever so often. Venetian shoe cream, I think, used very lightly, can also work. Remember that with Waxy Commander, the scuffs, the matte patches, the uneven texture are all considered desirable. This leather is famous specifically because the wax cracks off and exposes the nap underneath, creating that worn look. If you do too much with frequent conditioning, you can actually flatten the nap and turn it into something closer to an oily rough out. And you darken the sort of underlying suede, turning into a uniform color. From a heritage boot perspective, I guess the closest analogy is probably to treat it more like a wax canvas jacket and less like a calfskin dress leather. It is intended to look lived in. Parkhurst sizing is usually the usual half size down from Brannock. If you take my example, I measure 8.5 in D width on the blanket device in US sizing. I take Parkhurst boots in size 8 in their standard width, and the fit is perfect. If you have wide feet, they are starting to have more and more models available in wider widths. For my feet, the fit is almost perfect in the 618 last. I really used to like the older 602 last because I thought that particular combination last fitted my feet perfectly. When Parkhurst moved to the 602M last, my sizing got a bit awry. I found that there was more volume across the overall round bit of the ball of the foot in the 602M, and sizing further down wasn't an option because it was too short. When they introduced the 618, it was back to a great fit for me and also gave me an illusion of a more elegant and sharper almond toe, but with no restrictions or squeezing whatsoever. So the comfort of the last shape is great. The way the waist tucks in and the steel shank underneath provides excellent arch support. And the Waxy Commander is supple yet firm, so it wraps and supports your feet really well. Here's the interesting thing though. I found the extra layer of leather on the toe cap very hard to get used to. The Richmond model has always had a long toe cap, and in this case, looking down, it almost curves up and into your instep. I've never had an issue, but in this real toe cap model, I found that the edge of the toe cap, all double leather, just didn't flex as much on breaking in, and the edge of it actually dug into the tops of my toes, making it quite uncomfortable when I was walking. I would have preferred that they maybe shorten the toe cap a little by no more than 5 mils, half a centimeter or so, which might make that vamp break a little further forward. I'm interested to see, as I wear this more, if the breaking in of that part of the boot continues and it gets more comfortable or not. So that's what I think of this Parkhurst model and its modification into a real toe cap Stitchdown boot. As I said at the beginning, I think the 618 last will be taken on as the main, if not the only last from here on in. And the Stitchdown variants will also become the main models, if not all future models. Depending on the leather, the Richmond boots sell for just around $400 US. They are well constructed, use really great all-natural and heritage-style materials. They are handcrafted in a European workshop, and the Parkhurst brand provides great designs and customer service. Compare them to other service boots like, say, Truman in their old 79 last models, or say Grant Stone, despite Grant Stone's more dressy leather offerings. And the price and construction compare very well indeed. I think, for myself, that they are good value. That's why 23 pairs have been through my hands. If you have Parkhurst boots, tell me what you think in the comments below. And tell me if, for you think they're good value, and why. And while you're doing that, give me a hand to put my channel in front of others and click on that like button. Go on and smash it. Until next time, take care out there. See you soon.